I just want to share an anecdote. And I know this is so half, this isn't even baked. I don't even have any ingredients in the pan, but something happened last Sunday to me. And I want to see if it resonates with people. Um, I haven't been going out as much, busy online, busy with AI, busy with technology, busy with building businesses. And we decided to go to a local concert hall, which has got historical merit in and of itself. And I'm still on my cell phone. You guys are, everyone on this call has been through this. You're walking in grumbling. You don't really want to be here. You got things on your mind. You got a memo that's half written. You've got, it was a Sunday afternoon, so I got tomorrow to think about. I get in here and I sit down behind these people. That's me with my camera behind all these folks. And this piano player comes out and sits down and starts playing. Everything stopped. My life stopped. Everyone around it, you could hear a pin drop other than the beautiful notes coming out of the. I took my earbuds out. I shut off my cell phone. I stopped everything I was doing. And as I was listening to this gentleman, Zhen Wen Long is his name, I started realizing something. The only electricity in the building was what was illuminating the backlighting there. No microphones, no PA system, no auto tune, no technology other than the pianoforte, which is a Steinway, probably 100 years old. The building we're in is 250 years old. Perfect acoustics. And I started thinking, and tear kind of running down my eye. So I started pondering, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this, that this guy is living in a non-AI world. There's a man, a box with some strings in it, a beautiful box he's playing in with wood, and the only power and electricity and energy or anything remotely related to technology is the illumination that's showing that he's on the stage. And I'm starting to think that we're still not quite understanding the Kitty Hawk moment here. The Industrial Revolution meets Henry Ford, meets everything that went on before a moment is different after the moment. And then there's this gentleman, Mr. Long, playing the piano, and I realized he's not even in the moment. He's living an entirely different reality in an otherworldly place. And as the music kind of jangled over me and just swept me away, I forgot I even had my cell phone with me until I took this photo halfway through the show. I realized, wow, I'm caught up in it too, man. And we're in this moment. Like you think about Jesus, even before Jesus and after Jesus, we remember that moment a little bit. And I kind of think we're in that moment, like right in the middle of before AI and after AI. And one of the reasons I feel that's important is you look at the gray hairs in front of me. No young people in this room. The pace of it's too slow. We were there for 2 hours sitting in a chair, not moving, not saying a sound, clapping only when it was absolutely appropriate to. And I started to really realize that, wow, we're in a different place. And we're in that place between two worlds of a group of people of a certain age that grew up without AI, barely had computers, certainly no iPhones or cell phones or any of that. And that gentleman and the people like him are going to get scarcer and scarcer and scarcer. And I want to talk a little bit more later today about value related to scarcity in a digital AI world and how interesting a transition that appears to me to be. So I thought it was I left there in tears, and I left there really pondering this. This has not escaped me. It's almost a week ago. And I realized, wow, we are in something that is very, very different than anything we've ever experienced. This is not client server. This is not the internet. This is something wholesale different than what I think we may think it is. And this gentleman really just kindly reminded me that there's a whole other world that isn't the world we're in when we're in AI. And he just and the music was just, and no AI, none. When this guy learns a song, Mozart or Tchaikovsky or something, he learns it note for note off a piece of paper. And I just found that really to be a magical experience that we should not, in my view, lose sight of as we think about the pace of change of this AI movement. So personal anecdote aside, it struck me. I shared it on LinkedIn. It really stopped me in my tracks. And if anyone has any thoughts on this or they've had a similar experience, you're welcome to chime in. Other than that, I just wanted to share that personal anecdote as a kind of a touching remembrance of a life that may not exist anymore, man.
Actually, if it makes you feel better, that complaint's been made for like 2,000 years. I can
Yeah,
I can literally show you all my entire bookshelf. Oh, it's not as good as I see your point following it, but I mean it's very common. It's very common. It also changes a little too. Have
yeah.
you seen the skills of these kids on YouTube?
Oh, it's
Singing since
insane.
they're 4, 8. I mean, it really is different. It's all, I mean, what Mr. Beast does is an art form. I don't watch that stuff, but we get what you're saying. We get what you're saying, but I think it's our age, David, that does
It
that.
could be.
Nothing changes. It just looks a
Good,
little
good
different. So
call.
don't despair. Don't
I'm not.
despair, is
I'm
what I'm
not.
saying.
Actually, it wasn't even melancholy. It was a joy. It was actually a
Yeah.
joy that a young man like this. This is a young man you're talking about. He's probably in his late 20s or something. So he's a product of this and the magic of that musical moment. So anyway,
Actually,
that
thanks for sharing, David. I was going to say my son was in orchestra for many years, and I've attended every single, orchestra concert, and he plays the viola. And I felt the same way, just to watch these kids, probably around the same age as this young man. I mean, musical geniuses that was striking. And of course, I'm going to miss that because he's heading off to college next week. So and he's my my last one, so I'll be an empty nester. But it's beautiful to see that and get back to the basics, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole
to me,
point.
it's more like a place that will never exist anymore, other than when your son is playing his viola or this gentleman. Like there's going to be enclaves or little safe spaces where there's no AI in there. It doesn't fit. There's no possible room for it. He's just a man and a piano. It's a bunch of wooden strings. All right, pulse check. This is turn the microphone around back on you guys. Uh, this is anywhere you want to go with this. How are things going out there? Jobs, new careers, job openings. We used to call this on the move, but pulse check seems to be a little more relevant. If anyone has a recent announcement they want to make, they want to grab the microphone. This is your time.
I do think there's opportunities out there and seeing a lot more action. I hope everyone else is as well. Seeing either the data or just seeing general activity, which I think is really great. I do think another driver is there's been so much hype last year and a good part of this year that we're now at a point of having to execute, having to deliver. And so the client that I'm at here for the next few months is, to me, an example of what needs to be done around reconfiguring, checking what you're doing, looking through those processes. Are those processes really what we wanted when we were either had selected something or like an Oracle SuccessFactors Workday was forced on the TA community? Have we configured? Have we done this? And I just think there's a lot of opportunities for the TA leadership to jump in and own it, and to help drive some of it forward that hasn't been turned on yet. That really investigate and dive into it, and that's just an example from what I've seen with my last few clients, but this one in particular. And I think there's just great opportunity that I'm excited about, and I hope others are excited as well.
Two things. I've been tracking all the Indeed apply for me stuff that happened. And it was just a small percentage of it. But the day they turned that on, my Indeed traffic went to shit. It went from 75% of the people, and I'm looking at them now. It's a joke. I even have candidates now filling out resumes where they put smiley face emojis and call medical. So here's a driver, here's a lorry driver or something that's following up. And it's gotten so bad as they altered the algorithm that I'm just chasing all these different ways to stop using them because there's so much garbage. These are required certified like nuke med technologist imaging. What the hell is a welder doing applying to that? That is, and they're real people. That's the worst part. They're real people that are following up. And then you go to Zip and you have someone that you just interviewed for a job and they weren't a fit, and you have a different job that's similar and they apply for that next one that day. I think candidates have just given up trying at all. So I'll just throw this out. I created a new tool called Social Qualifier. It basically goes out along the web and looks for breadcrumbs and bounded places. So like semiconductor jobs, imaging technologists, auto body technicians, any place that we have a shortage and the people are not showing up on LinkedIn, Indeed, or in our databases. So it goes out and like fills it up like a puzzle and then looks for contact data. So these are cold leads, these are source leads, but it's people that you've never talked to before that you can start chatting to and actually sell to them if you have a competent recruiting team. So I'm trying to use this for my clients to basically kill off Indeed this year. Why, why am I spending $7,500 a month and more for nothing? And that's how much I know is wasted. Know is wasted. That's not even the ones that are following up. In the last 2 years, maybe 10% of all of our leads are new. They're saying, it's nothing wrong with someone in your database saying it from Indeed, but the cost for what they're getting is ridiculous. Indeed. So if you're curious, if you have a bound, it's not going to find salespeople or developers or something. But if you've got a place with a clear shortage and it's hard to find those people, hit me up. I'll show it to you. And it's designed to push for certain kinds of teams. So if you're curious about that, let me know. Um, but Indeed just did the report. I think it was Job Board Doctor put it out. They're anticipating 25% growth in the US this year in their HR tech. And it's all going to come from current clients and new products. They're just going to jack the cost up. And I'm laughing because everyone I've worked with has cut their budget. It's pure waste and laziness from TA. It's why I stopped writing about a lot of stuff at Indeed. We've already said that everything needs to be said. It's amazing to me. We've reached a point. Remember the old joke about IBM? You can't get fired for using IBM. And for years, what happens is if your Indeed or LinkedIn budgets increase, the CFO doesn't push back. And every time you start something new, oh, let's try talent.com or let's try Proven Base. All of a sudden, that little pilot gets under a microscope. Oh, there's no way it's not following up, but you never look at the stuff for Indeed and LinkedIn. So I've just reached a point. I've just started yelling at people. If you complain about Indeed, I don't want to hear it. You're the problem. Quit whining about something that you're the problem for. But you know that CFOs are all asking these questions. So there's all these new people analytics tools that are out there that are really quite good. Once those start showing you your actual cost and how much waste, there's going to be a lot of new jobs open because it's really reached a point where I know we're all tired. But man, if you don't know where you're spending money and how to fix it, at this point, it's on you. That's the way I look at it. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I'm a little hot.
You're hot. I can tell, Jim. I like it. So hit up
and
Jim.
I'm busy. I'm totally busy. So it's not, I mean, I'm working 12-hour days. I got 4 clients. I'm loving life right now. I have no patience to listen to anybody whine anymore about not, when they can't do anything, I don't want to hear it. So I just jacked my prices up and everybody calls now, except for you fine folks for social qualifier. But we're going back to old school stuff. Literally old school stuff. Instead of a giant thing, here, I'm going to give you 10 leads a day, and then I'm going to make sure you call them. If you don't call it, I'm not going to work with you. That's the point. We're literally going back 25 years because AI has just ruined people's heads. Anyway, that's my rant.
It's a good one.
Yell at me if you're wrong, but it's bad when I start yelling. I'm not writing anymore because I got nothing else to say.
Thanks, Jim. That's great. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why Indeed and LinkedIn don't see the freight train coming down the tunnel. The light's getting closer. I just don't see a challenger. Something's got to fundamentally shift. And I thought I saw Taylor out there. Maybe he's got something on that. But
yeah,
I mean, I just think they're long in the tooth, if nothing else. Both those platforms look a little stale to me. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to opine.
Well, I mean, my only thing is I got to get it done. I can't just. I can't go out there and say, oh, I'm going to change the world. I got to actually change it. So that's what I'm working on. We're working with 40 clients right now, and
nice.
It's going well. And but there are challenges. All right. Anytime you're going to turn the sweatshirt inside out and try something different, everyone runs back to the thing that, Jim, you're describing is not working. It's just so easy to run back to the safety of crap. So I'm working on it. I put something in the chat. I am really monitoring what's happening with the bigger AI companies. Look at Anthropic and OpenAI and their IPOs, because I feel like their IPOs are going to change everything. And I just found out that OpenAI is going to push their IPO until next June. And but that means that Anthropic is going to go out. It clearly means that Anthropic is in the lead right now. But they'll probably go out at about $1 trillion valuation, and they'll raise something like $60 billion. And anytime you have a company that becomes the most dominant company on the planet, it's going to start to change everything. And I think we've been dancing on the edges of all this AI stuff, and I think it's going to change dramatically. And we can get into what's going to change, but I just I want people to monitor the fact that there are 10 companies all in about 6 zip codes in California that can completely dominate what's happening in our world, let's say within the next 18 months.
They're going to hear from Boston real soon, aren't they? Don't forget Boston. We're coming. Thanks, right. Jeff. That's awesome. Just a quick update on the legal issues out here that are going to help define and regulate the rollout of this AI stuff. Certainly Mobley still is moving down the process. We've got A-Fold and iSIMs still kicking around and moving forward. Heather, if you're out there, we'd love to have you chime
I'm right
in.
Here.
Hey, there you are. Welcome aboard. What is happening with these legal cases or anything else from your POV?
Yeah, well, with Mobley, the pleadings are finally settled, so we know kind of what forms of discrimination and who is eligible for the class, and then there'll be a lot of wrangling about the definitions of the class itself, and that'll take a long time because there are many people involved, and if you have to check each one to see, oh, did you get an auto reject or did you get, so that's going to be out there for a while. It's the lawyer full employment case. Kistler versus Eightfold AI, that's the Fair Credit Reporting Act one. That one's going to settle.
Yeah.
It's there's probably liability because they are subject to the FCRA and just didn't realize it. And this is not something that's going to change recruiting because it's just they'll automate the consents. It's not that hard. Swanson versus IBM is another one that is an age discrimination case where a former employee applied after a layoff and AI rejected him, and that's the settings or parameters seem to be related to prioritizing younger workers, but it sounds to me like that was an internal policy more than AI. Okay. The worst case I've seen so far is before the Colorado Civil Rights Division, and that involves an employee who was going for a promotion and was doing an AI interview. And they were rejected, and the feedback was you're not actively listening and you're not articulating well. And it turns out that the employee was deaf. So how you use these tools is really important, and I cannot emphasize enough to audit your outcomes for the employers, because there's no way to know what's happening.
Heather, that's awesome. I mean, just if anyone out there needs legal support of any kind related to all this stuff, Heather Bussing is an expert in this field. She's been on numerous times. And if you don't mind, Heather, I'm going to just plug you please reach out to Heather directly. Well, the other side of this is the compliance and the technology and the regulatory framework, as we wait for legal precedent to set in and give us some policy guidance. We can't wait for that because these AI agents are running amok, as we already learned. And I'm not sure, is Helen there? Did Helen join the call?
Yeah, I'm on.
Hey, Helen, how you doing? Helen works for the Rose Federation, who is attacking this in earnest from a technology standpoint. So welcome aboard, Helen. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really sorry I'm not going to be on camera. Okay, so some of this that I wanted to go over today, we've been talking a little bit about on the call. Certainly Heather covered a couple of things, but I wanted to say to this team that this is something obvious to you, but that the AI conversation and hiring has shifted. So the story of the month in Greenhouse's 2026 AI hiring report, 91% of recruiters and hiring managers said that they spotted or suspected candidate deception. So we just talked about that a little bit. And 74% said that they were more worried about fake credentials than a year earlier. So no surprise to this group. And then one firm said that 38.4% of almost 20,000 interviews were flagged for AI cheating behavior, and a 3 times increase in 3 months. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 out of 20,000 interviews were AI cheating. So it makes resume polish concerns that we used to have seem kind of quaint. And looking forward, Gartner now projects that in 2028, 1 in 4 candidate profiles worldwide will be fake. And I think we're all seeing that too. The legal exposure that Heather just talked about is landing on employers, not vendors. 2 suits from the last several weeks should be on everybody's radar. That's the Meta employees, a coalition of 26 current and former Meta employees sued the company in July, alleging its latest layoff used AI intelligence in a way that discriminated against pregnant workers and people with disabilities. And Meta's defense was incredibly telling. They said the company workforce decisions were made by people, not AI. But what they didn't say is that the Meta internal AI assistant, which is MetaMate, employee trained agents, keystroke and activity monitoring data, and AI token use dashboard assisted in performance ranking and calibration. So Meta never adjusted the systems to neutralize the effect of what it might be to be an employee that was disabled for a moment even. And so that's kind of interesting. We'll see where that goes, and maybe that settles as well. And then, as we just talked about with the Eightfold, that's a class action suit now in federal court of the Northern District of California. And I think that's kind of interesting, because why it went under Fair Credit is because with the Fair Credit Act, you'd have the opportunity to review your credit report and talk about any discrepancies that were out there. And there is no recourse for the employee who had a poor rating given by Eightfold.
You're great, Helen. Thank you. That's it ties right back to what Heather was telling us. Even her last comment about audit trails and knowing who is doing where the AI agents are and what they're doing, and what is the immutable audit trail that you need to have in place before these things go too far and wide and act on their own reconnaissance. And so Helen and her team are cutting edge. These guys are the techies you want. These guys are the guys that can hack the big systems, know where the breaches are under bounties all the time for that kind of work, for the big box concerns that have these issues. And so if you have any needs for technical support, if you know of any companies that are looking for tech support of that kind, just hit Helen up, and her Rose Federation can help. Thank you, Helen. And thank you, Heather. Both of you guys. Really appreciate it. All right, let's get into this. I got 20 minutes on this beast, but I'll bet other people do too. When are we going to just decide that the data just isn't working? Like the entire data apparatus that we're running corporate America as it relates to hiring is broken. I just don't get it. How are we to trust anything anymore coming from these data sources? And by the way, this is not a good report, is it? I don't know. Negative. I mean, all I see it. Here's what I can't get my head wrapped around. I'd love to hear some just thoughts on this. We're so disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from the economy. Many of us are. The Dow Jones is skyrocketing. We lost 23,000 jobs, and unemployment rate went down. Please make that make sense. Someone, please help me understand how that makes sense and what economy we're actually living in. Is the economy good? Is it bad? Do we trust this data? I mean, all I needed to see, and I think it's only a result of being right at the break-even line. When you're right at the break-even line, you start to see there's no room for error. And when we dipped 23,000 and the unemployment rate went down 100 basis points, it's like, wait a minute. That's obviously people that are no longer in the calculation. Has to be. You can't
That's right.
lose 23,000 people from the workforce or have 23,000 net effect layoffs and lower unemployment. That's
Yeah.
just, and they got caught with it. They got caught in
Yeah.
that.
David, you and
So
I can run a talk show and bring in all the different guests and discuss and debate this. I think we could do a LinkedIn Live or expand this group as well, just to focus on this data. I'm so glad you're ranting about it, but those 3 points and having them not consistent just drives me crazy. And then, of course, we always have to revise the good news this month, and the good news is, oh wait, but we revised down the last other months. They weren't as rosy as we said they were, and people only focus on the 10 words of today, not revising the past. Simon, over to you.
Guys, appreciate it.
good to see you.
Fascinating as usual. To me, the two things with the jobs data. One, I think it's demonstrating the impact of the immigration issues that we're dealing with. I think that's really going to start crippling the workforce in so many key areas, especially ironically, those areas where the hiring is still the most robust, like healthcare. I mean, we're seeing it up in Massachusetts with the announcements on TPS, direct, sending these poor folks from Haiti back to basically a crime zone. And so many of them work in the healthcare sector. It's really going to be, I read somewhere there's like 15,000 folks that are impacted through that. And then the second thing I think is the the same thing we talked about before when we had Andrew, I think it was on before, and that was the issue of there's a zero qualitative aspect to this data. It's impossible to show in these macro numbers what sorts of jobs we're talking about that are open versus the comparison to what actually the workforce is looking for. And unless we can ever, and I don't have an answer to it. I'm not saying I do, but unless we can get to that level of granularity, this is always just a headline.
Yeah. And why do we always feel like blurting out, well, it must be an election year? Like every time, I think everyone on this call, like said, yeah, I've kind of said the same thing when I see some weird data. So it must be an election year. So I don't know. That's great, Simon. So aligned. Andrew, good to see you.
Good seeing everybody. I think it's important to recognize that the federal data that comes out of here from the BLS is different than the unemployment and then the claims numbers that are driven by the states. And so that's not really in the media, where there's this idea of multiple data sources are contributing to the headlines. And so you might say something like, well, we've lost this many jobs. Well, that's not a New York statement. That's not a New Jersey statement. How many people filed in New Jersey and New York could be very different than it is in California. So when we aggregate these numbers, I would just realize that what we're doing is we're loosely aggregating county, state, municipal, state worker, and then polling data that comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I would just offer, as we read these, just realize that the teams themselves are trying to get data that is difficult for them to aggregate.
Yeah, great
Yep.
call out, Andrew. And
That's
being
true.
on the corporate side for many, many years, I can't imagine how forecasting is, that usually is some element influence on forecasting for labor and hiring plans for companies, which are specific to the companies, but have to fit into that broader context. That's a great call out. Joe, good to see you.
Likewise, thank you. I'm going to put it into the chat, but I was just kind of curious, like, what is there a chief data officer or chief information officer for the U.S. government? And there's a kind of a cool and short breakdown there of the three different things that they're doing. It does look like there's a federal chief information officer and a U.S. chief technology officer, but ultimately all these agencies and divisions have their own kind of chief data officer. So it's I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of ranting like you, David. Like, it seems like there are the leaders in place and there is the infrastructure in place, but we're still just not getting it right, and can't
Oh,
trust
right.
it.
It's what Congress and leadership designed. You're right, Joe. we're not getting it right. Someone, forever ago said, hey, we need an unemployment report. How are we going to design that? We're going to survey some people. Other people said, let's go get this. Other people. So that's why there's the brown book and the beige book and this book and that book that aren't, I think to David's original point, it's not connected together and we need to revamp it. Is this something our group can, pontificate and come up with? And come up with a best practice and develop some own metrics. I think that's where we saw the ADP numbers, come out because they pay 10% of the world's workforce, so they have some real numbers to deal with. So that's exciting to see. Who does anyone have any better numbers than that? But at the same time, what can we do about it? What do we ignore? What can we go forward with? And let's have some opinions about, hey, there are glimmers of hope out there, and there are some positive actions going on. Let's jump in and make some good things happen. Blair, over to you.
Hey, y'all. So interesting topic that you brought up, that the visas are being denied. I had a chat with Vail Resorts, who's lucky that they had a terrible snow season because basically everything they requested got denied. Was talking to two major players in the top 20 of lawn care. One of them specifically is 30 to 50% H-2B visa. And they're like, we're lucky and we can't get funding because our private equity firms that are funding us, or VC firms, won't give us any more money until we figure out the talent equity of that ratio because they think it's a big risk. Then I just Googled it, and Google says we sit at a 95% acceptance rate.
What?
So, like, I don't know what to believe, but I also know that there's a lot of people in the Denver area that are leaving the Denver area because they are forced to.
Interesting. David Hansen, how are you, sir? Yes.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Good to see you. This is great.
Likewise.
I just look, I can only report from one sector, it's technology. So I don't know how helpful it will be, but technology sector in general, and David, you know this, that unemployment has been below a natural rate for years.
Right.
For at least 30 years in the tech sector, unemployment's below a natural rate. Now, what I find interesting and what I can report is in this sector where AI is supposed to be hitting the hardest, meaning destroying the sector, is software development. And something is not computing in this context because employment is actually climbing. And so I cautiously report this, but I think there's going to be an argument or an outcome where I think Jeff was mentioning, that one of the upcoming IPOs, I think when you start to see new industries coming online that are tech infused, whether it's space, whether it's AI related, you're going to see, I believe you will see massive job creation. And now I don't know when that will happen. And my view could be completely wrong. But in the current state, in the current US economy, employment is not only holding steady, it's actually rising in the tech sector. And we're starting to see more deficit of talent. This tech sector is global, and the US is in a prime area to be dominant in the space. And I don't want to sound bullish, but I'll stop here. I think you will start to, I don't think you're going to see the sector get wiped out by AI. I do think you're going to see a lot of job creation. The last point there is what we're not seeing is enough people in the sector educating themselves on AI fast enough. Yeah. And the one thing I can say there is that it's hard to, I'm a student of it, and I'm having a hard time because it's changing so fast to keep up with the rate of change, even as a student. So I think education is going to be a key thing for the U.S. economy and the sector on how we stay competitive. Last thing, that's it.
That's a great one, David. Just as a sidebar anecdote, we had a call with a fintech company um, on behalf of Rose Federation, Helen's firm, and they hadn't assigned. We met with the CIO and the CISO, and they hadn't decided where AI is going to reside in the organization. So you talk about clarity and lack of clarity and education and where this is all going to sit and what's it doing. Until we sort out what this thing even reports to, what this technology reports to, I think we're going to have that lack of clarity. And this is the second point, and then we'll move on, is I wring my hands over 23,000 job losses, but we had 4.1 or 4.2 or under anything under 5%, we are adding jobs. And we are maybe suffering through a little bumpy stretch here, David, but I tend to concur. I think once this gets, kind of gets its bearings, we can kind of fully operationalize all this apparatus and govern it and manage it. We'll see the enterprise level job growth, which is the driver of those types of jobs. Crazy market is what it is. We've got these mixed signals of craziness going on. I'll have Jeff kind of unpack this. This is a crazy hiring situation that came up on his radar. Jeff, you out there?
This company called Lemon Lime had a YC after party where they were giving away tattoos, and they kind of sold it as, if you get this tattoo, we'll expedite the interview and make it quicker so you can actually get in an interview on the spot. Well, a lot of people didn't like that. They weren't very specific with what they were actually giving for tattoos, and later walked it back and said they were not giving Lemon Lime logo tattoos. They had the option to get what they wanted, but they essentially kind of sold it as being, you get this tattoo, we'll bring you to the front of the line for interviews, and we'll move forward with that. So it just kind of highlights the ridiculousness of this job market and what people are willing to do in order to just get an interview. I don't know how everyone thinks about it, but I was just kind of appalled by it. So not a fan of it.
It just highlights the madness we're in, and the lack of clarity, which leads to madness. When you don't know where you are, when there's been month after month of signals that are confusing, and no one owns it. And the DIY element of AI is maybe not helpful in this regard, because I think it may have led to some kind of just crazy behavior. And then you see kind of an old school, .com kind of craziness like this. They just don't have to do it. It's just kind of silly. And Craig White, as he says, are we adding jobs or just posting jobs? That's a great question. That's where the data, to have no confidence in the data is really troubling. We just don't know. We don't know. I think we are adding. I think I'm with some of the comments here, including David's, that I think we are adding jobs, and maybe a lot of it has already happened. And I think the downstream, like the people affected by AI, seem like the call center people, the people doing the business process that's being disrupted, not the technicians that are doing the disruption. So that doesn't really shock me, David Hampson, that the guys behind the curtain building the stuff, they're still rocking, while the business process people that are executing the work it's replacing are the ones getting shown the door. Bill Mussman, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Just one thing, just to point, Jeff, to what you were just talking about here. I talk to so many people that are looking for work to the point where they get emotional. And I think the one thing and maybe it's an advocacy as a group that we're in, is we all, if you're in TA, you're recruiting, please show some dignity to the people that you are trying to recruit. Applying, I know it's easy to hit the button and just, print and, send thanks but no thanks notes to a ton of people, but I'm just engaging with so many people today, and they don't hear, or they can't get a clear answer. And I do think as an industry group, maybe that's one thing that we can work through, is just show the candidates it's hard out there. If you're not working, you're looking for work, and I know there are people on the call that are going through all of that. As recruiters, we can show a little bit of dignity, and whether it's an email, phone call, whatever, to try and keep somebody motivated. Just part of what we want to do. So anyway, I just thought I would just bring that up. I literally spend 5-6 people a week I talk to, and it's the same thing, how poorly that we are treating the candidates as we go through that. So I just thought I'd bring that up here at the end.
Amen,
That's
Bill.
great.
Thanks.
Spot on. All right, just real quickly, we can jump into this. Yeah, this is we've already beaten this to death, Jeff. So we can just kind of move on. We seem a little conflicted and sending ourselves conflicting information as to what is really going on, which is the symptom is the tattoo, right? The symptom is like craziness. What's really happening are things like that. I really enjoy this myself. I hope you guys did as well. Frank,
Thank you so much,
final words?
everybody. Thanks everyone for being here. Have a wonderful
See you.
week. Stay in
See you
touch.
next month.
Happy
Thanks,
weekend,
guys.
Bill.
Thank you.
Cheers.